A man who was once jobless is now a multimillionaire, but his journey was far from easy. He had no money, no support, only hope and a dream. This is the story of Arjun, who came from a small village, with big dreams, but life had a different plan for him. Arjun was an average student, not exceptionally intelligent, but not slow either. He somehow managed to finish his graduation, but despite having a degree, he couldn't land a good job. He went for interviews everywhere, but either they told him he lacked experience or suggested he needed to improve his skills. His home situation wasn't any better. His father had retired, and his mother earned a little by doing sewing work at home to contribute to the household, but it was never enough. One day, after being rejected at yet another interview, Arjun found himself at a loss. He didn't know what to do next. It seemed like life had become a dark tunnel with no way out. His friends, too, had stopped helping him. Everyone was busy with their own lives, and those who used to meet him regularly now avoided him, even when it was just to talk over the phone. He felt increasingly isolated. But despite the loneliness, he thought to himself, if I don't do something now, I'll never get anywhere. The question was, what could he do? Jobs weren't coming his way, starting a business seemed impossible without any money, and his home situation was deteriorating. One day, while sitting at a local tea stall, he saw a man ordering something on his mobile phone, and within minutes, a delivery boy brought the parcel to him. Arjun's mind sparked with an idea. If people prefer ordering online and having things delivered to their doorstep, why can't I do something similar? The problem was, he had no money to invest, no prior business experience, and most importantly, no one to guide him. Determined, Arjun started researching online businesses. He looked into how they worked, how people started businesses with little to no investment, and how a single idea could change someone's life. But one problem remained: how could he start without money? He thought he could offer a small service that people would need, one that wouldn't require much investment up front. One day, when he met an old college friend, who was now working at a small company, he shared his idea with him. His friend laughed it off and told him that if business were that easy, everyone would be an entrepreneur. Arjun was stung by the comment. He thought, I will create my own world, and I will make it work. Arjun then spoke to his mother about his idea. He told her he wanted to start a small home delivery service, but he had no money. Without hesitation, his mother took off her old gold earrings and handed them to him, saying, "This is just a start, son. When you succeed, bring me new earrings." Touched by her gesture, Arjun promised her he would turn this into something big. With his mother's blessing, Arjun started a small home delivery service in his locality, delivering groceries and other small essentials. On the first day, he received just one order. The second day, 2 orders came in. On the third day, 4 orders. Slowly, people started liking his service. But there was a problem: he had no proper system for deliveries. Everything was manual, and he had to run around all day. One day, seeing that his service was becoming somewhat popular, he thought of creating a simple website. But once again, the same issue arose: no money. He sold his old books and even his phone to hire a freelancer and build the website. Once the website launched, the orders began to increase rapidly. But now, he faced another issue: he didn't have enough delivery staff. He couldn't handle all the work by himself, so he recruited 2 of his old unemployed friends to join him. With his friends on board, things started running more efficiently, and the number of orders increased. Now, Arjun's business was becoming well known in his city. But despite the increasing orders, he wasn't making much money yet. He was barely covering his expenses and saving a little on the side. But Arjun didn't just want to survive, he wanted to thrive. One day, a big investor heard about his service and came to meet him. He offered to invest in Arjun's business, but there was a catch: Arjun would have to sell the majority of his shares. Arjun thought about it all night. If he agreed, he would get a lot of money, but his company would be under someone else's control. If he turned it down, the business would grow slowly. The next morning, Arjun made a decision. He rejected the investor's offer. He believed that no matter how slow, he wanted to build his business on his terms. This mindset became his greatest strength. He hired more people, expanded his service, and within a year, his small business went from a local enterprise to one that reached several cities. One day, when he looked at his earnings, he was astonished. His profits had reached millions. He was no longer just a local business owner, he was a successful entrepreneur. This was just the beginning of Arjun's journey. His dreams were even bigger now, and he was excited about the future. But the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. New challenges, new problems, and new opportunities were waiting for him. Arjun had tasted success, but he was far from satisfied. His dreams had expanded beyond the small delivery business. He knew he had to keep evolving or risk stagnating. Despite the early wins, he understood that running a business was a never-ending learning process. The challenges kept coming, and the stakes were only getting higher. One of the first big decisions Arjun faced was whether to expand his business outside the city. The demand for his service was growing rapidly, and he knew the market was ready, but expanding came with its own set of risks. His competitors were watching closely, and they were also trying to innovate. Arjun's service, although successful, was not yet polished enough to stand out among the big players. Still, he couldn't ignore the constant pressure to grow. He had witnessed firsthand how much of a game-changer even a small expansion could be. So, after careful thought and discussions with his team, Arjun decided to take the plunge and expand to other cities. But unlike before, this time he wasn't going to do it alone. He brought in a couple of experienced managers to handle the operations in the new cities, while he stayed focused on the central hub of his business. The first few months of expansion were tough. There were logistical nightmares, coordination issues, and even conflicts among his team. The initial euphoria of growth quickly faded as the reality of running a larger business hit. Arjun found himself working even harder, dealing with bigger problems that came with scaling up. His days were longer, the stakes were higher, and stress levels were at an all-time peak. There were times when he felt overwhelmed, especially when one of the cities experienced a major logistical failure, causing a ripple effect that disrupted the entire system. It was a blow that shook Arjun's confidence, but he refused to let it defeat him. He realized he needed to systematize things more efficiently and ensure his team was better equipped to handle the pressure. Arjun dug into learning how to streamline operations, optimize his delivery network, and even improve his customer service. He hired experts in logistics and supply chain management to guide him through the maze of scaling a business. Over time, things began to stabilize, and he learned how to manage the growing complexity. The business continued to grow, but so did the pressure. Investors started approaching Arjun more seriously, sensing his potential. His company had expanded into several cities, and its profits were steadily rising. Yet, Arjun wasn't ready to give up control just yet. He had learned valuable lessons about maintaining his autonomy from the previous investor offer. However, the offers kept coming, and the temptation to scale up even faster was undeniable. One evening, while going over financial reports in his office, Arjun got a call from a high-profile investor who offered him a massive deal. This time, the offer was different. It wasn't about taking control of the company, but rather providing Arjun with the capital needed to expand into international markets. The offer was tempting, but Arjun had learned his lesson. He wasn't just looking for money, he needed a partner who shared his vision and values. After careful consideration, Arjun made the bold decision to partner with the investor, but on his terms. They agreed on a deal that gave Arjun more control and allowed him to retain his company's integrity while bringing in the resources to expand on a global scale. This partnership marked a turning point for Arjun. It was a calculated risk that paid off. With the investors' backing, Arjun's business exploded into new markets, first regionally, then internationally. His company was no longer just a local hero, it was becoming a household name in the global business community. The international expansion was both thrilling and challenging. Arjun faced different regulatory hurdles, cultural nuances, and market dynamics. But his team's deep commitment and his own relentless drive helped him navigate these obstacles. He was now leading a global operation, with teams in multiple countries and a brand that was becoming synonymous with quality and reliability in the delivery business. As the business grew, Arjun found himself moving away from the day-to-day operations. He transitioned from being the guy who delivered groceries himself to being the visionary who strategized the future of his company. But even as his role evolved, he never lost sight of his original vision. He always made sure that his company stayed true to its roots, providing value to customers through reliable and affordable services. Arjun's success wasn't just about the money. It was about the people he had met along the way, the lessons he had learned, and the resilience he had built. His story became an inspiration for many, especially for those who were struggling with similar challenges. People who had once laughed at him for his small ideas now looked up to him as a role model. He had started with nothing but a vision and the determination to make it work. Despite his newfound success, Arjun stayed grounded. He remembered the sacrifices his mother had made and the tough times he had endured. He never let the fame or wealth change him. Instead, he used his platform to help others. He mentored young entrepreneurs, shared his journey in interviews, and donated to causes that supported education and entrepreneurship in underprivileged communities. Arjun's journey was one of highs and lows, moments of doubt, and moments of triumph. He had transformed from a jobless young man with no clear direction to a multimillionaire entrepreneur with a global business empire. Yet, the journey was far from over. Arjun knew that the road ahead would be filled with more challenges, but he was ready to face them head-on. He had the experience, the wisdom, and the passion to keep going. His story wasn't just about financial success, it was about resilience, innovation, and the power of never giving up on a dream. Arjun had turned his life around, and in doing so, he had changed not just his own future, but the lives of countless others. As Arjun's business continued to grow, he began facing a new set of challenges, ones that tested not just his ability to manage a company, but also his leadership and decision-making skills. With international expansion under his belt, the pressure to maintain consistent quality and innovation was mounting. Arjun had to adapt quickly, and it wasn't easy. The higher he climbed, the steeper the challenges became. One of the biggest hurdles came when a major competitor entered the market with a similar service. This competitor was well-funded, had deep industry connections, and seemed to be everywhere, on billboards, online ads, and even on TV. At first, Arjun wasn't worried. After all, his business had a loyal customer base, and his services were of high quality. But slowly, Arjun began to notice something. His customers were starting to drift, and complaints about slow delivery times and customer service began to surface. It was a wake-up call. Arjun realized that while his company had been growing, it had become complacent. The systems he had put in place were no longer sufficient to keep up with the increasing demand. His competitors were moving faster, and customers were no longer willing to wait for a company that didn't keep up with their needs. The reality of competition hit hard, and for the first time, Arjun felt the weight of his decisions. He needed to innovate, and he needed to do it fast. But innovation was expensive, and it required a level of commitment that he wasn't sure his team was ready for. The investor who had backed his international expansion was urging Arjun to scale faster, but Arjun wasn't sure that was the right move. He knew that if they moved too quickly without improving their operations, they could lose everything they had worked so hard to build. It was during this time of uncertainty that Arjun made a decision that would change the course of his company. He realized that to stay ahead, he couldn't just focus on beating his competitors. Instead, he needed to create something unique, something that would make his company indispensable to customers. He thought back to the early days of his business when he was just delivering groceries and small essentials. He remembered how his simple service had been based on reliability, trust, and understanding his customers' needs. Arjun made the bold move of redesigning the company's entire business model. He decided to shift the focus from simply providing a service to creating an experience that customers could rely on, no matter what. He brought in a team of tech experts to develop an AI-powered logistics system that would track every package, ensure timely deliveries, and offer customers real-time updates. Additionally, he invested in a customer service platform that was powered by AI but still offered human touchpoints for complex issues. The transition wasn't easy. It involved overhauling the company's infrastructure, retraining employees, and convincing skeptical investors that the changes would pay off in the long run. But Arjun believed in his vision. He knew that this was the future of his company, and if they didn't adapt, they would fall behind. The new technology and customer experience model began to take shape, and soon, the results were undeniable. Customer satisfaction surged as delivery times became more efficient, and communication between the company and its clients improved dramatically. Arjun's business was no longer just a delivery service, it had become a tech-driven company that could deliver on promises and exceed customer expectations. However, there was one more challenge that Arjun had to face. As his company grew, the team became larger, and with growth came the complexities of managing people. The pressure was now on Arjun to be more than just a business owner, he had to become a true leader, someone who could inspire, motivate, and align everyone with the company's new vision. Arjun knew he had to evolve his leadership style. He wasn't just managing a small startup anymore, he was running a large corporation. This required him to develop new skills, especially in the areas of communication, delegation, and team building. He hired leadership coaches and invested in leadership development programs for himself and his management team. Over time, Arjun learned to let go of some of the day-to-day operations and empower his managers to make decisions. He focused more on strategy, innovation, and the big picture. This shift in leadership allowed the company to scale even faster. The internal culture became more dynamic, and the team was more aligned with the company's goals. By the time Arjun's company reached its 5th year of operation, it had become one of the leading players in the delivery service industry. The AI-driven logistics system and personalized customer experience had set it apart from competitors. The company's reputation was stellar, and its customer base was loyal. Arjun had successfully navigated the storm of competition and had come out stronger on the other side. But with success came new challenges. The global market was becoming saturated, and Arjun knew that to continue growing, he would have to look beyond the delivery business. He started considering new industries, new opportunities, and new ways to expand his empire. But this time, he wasn't rushing in blindly. He had learned valuable lessons from his past experiences, and he was determined to enter new ventures with careful planning and strategic partnerships. He began exploring the world of e-commerce, looking for opportunities to leverage his logistics platform in new ways. He also started looking into technology startups that could complement his existing business. Arjun knew that the future wasn't just about physical deliveries, it was about technology, data, and connecting people in ways that were more seamless than ever before. At this point, Arjun's company had become more than just a business, it had become a global brand. His name was synonymous with innovation, perseverance, and success. But despite his growing wealth and influence, Arjun remained humble. He never forgot where he came from, and he used his success to inspire others, especially those who came from backgrounds like his own. Arjun's journey was far from over. He had built a multi-million-dollar empire from nothing, and now, he was ready to take on new challenges. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, Arjun was no longer the jobless man who had once wondered if he would ever make it. He was now a visionary entrepreneur, ready to shape the world in new and unexpected ways. As Arjun's company flourished, so did his understanding of what it truly meant to be a leader. He had experienced the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and had learned that success wasn't just about profits, it was about creating something that would last, something that would have a positive impact on the world. Yet, despite the successes and recognition, Arjun remained humble, and his drive for innovation only intensified. By now, Arjun had become a well-known name in the business world. He had been invited to speak at conferences, featured in magazines, and even had his own TED Talk. He was often asked about the key to his success, and he would always answer in a simple, but profound way, "Don't chase the money, chase the solution." For Arjun, the goal wasn't just about building a profitable company, it was about solving a problem in a unique and effective way. In his case, the problem was simple: people needed fast, reliable, and affordable delivery services. But as his company grew, Arjun began to see other problems emerge, ones that were not so easily solved. The world was changing, and fast. Technology was advancing at an exponential rate, and Arjun knew that if he didn't stay ahead of the curve, his company would eventually become obsolete. He also recognized that there were bigger issues at play: sustainability, climate change, and the ethical challenges of running a business on such a large scale. With this realization, Arjun began to shift the focus of his company toward sustainability. He knew it was no longer enough to just be the best in terms of service, he also wanted his company to be a force for good. Arjun began exploring ways to reduce his company's carbon footprint, whether by switching to electric delivery vehicles or finding greener packaging solutions. He started implementing energy-saving technologies in his warehouses, optimizing routes to reduce fuel consumption, and even collaborating with environmental organizations to offset carbon emissions. But it wasn't just about the environment. Arjun also focused on the social responsibility of his company. He knew that his success had given him a platform to do more for society. He began offering free delivery services for non-profit organizations, supporting local charities, and investing in communities that had helped his business grow. He believed that a business could be both profitable and responsible, and he wanted to prove it. However, this shift was not without its challenges. Sustainability initiatives required investment, and in some cases, they were not immediately profitable. But Arjun was willing to take the risk. He had seen firsthand how business decisions based solely on short-term profit could stifle innovation and compromise values. He was determined to build a legacy that would be remembered for making a positive impact on the world. One of the most significant moves Arjun made during this period was to introduce a program that would provide jobs to underserved communities. He believed in creating opportunities, not just for himself, but for others. He partnered with local governments and training organizations to provide employment opportunities for people who had been left behind by traditional job markets. His company not only provided jobs, but also training programs, mentoring, and career advancement opportunities. This initiative became a cornerstone of his company's mission, and it gained widespread recognition for its positive social impact. Despite the risks and challenges, Arjun's strategy was paying off. His company had become a leader in the industry not just because of its service quality, but because it was now seen as a company with purpose. The brand was more than just a name, it represented a vision for a better future, one where business success and social responsibility went hand in hand. Arjun's reputation as a visionary entrepreneur continued to grow. He was invited to speak at global summits on sustainability and innovation, where he shared his insights on how businesses could embrace the future while staying grounded in their values. He became a sought-after mentor, helping other entrepreneurs navigate the complexities of building socially responsible businesses. But Arjun knew that while his journey had been remarkable, it was far from over. In fact, he was already looking toward the next phase of his career. Arjun had always been someone who sought to challenge the status quo. He knew that the world was changing rapidly, and that the future of business would be shaped by technological innovation, social responsibility, and a deep understanding of the global landscape. He began exploring industries outside of delivery, from renewable energy to education and healthcare. He knew that if he wanted to continue to make an impact, he would need to diversify his ventures. But this time, Arjun was cautious. He had learned from his past mistakes and knew that rushing into new industries without a clear understanding of the market could be a recipe for disaster. He spent months researching different industries, talking to experts, and building relationships with like-minded entrepreneurs. He knew that any new venture had to align with his core values: sustainability, innovation, and social responsibility. Eventually, Arjun decided to invest in clean energy. He saw it as the future of business and a way to make a meaningful impact on the planet. He used the same approach that had worked for him in his delivery business: start small, learn the industry, and scale strategically. He partnered with renewable energy companies to develop solar power solutions for businesses and households. It was a bold move, but Arjun's instincts told him it was the right one. Arjun also turned his attention to education, recognizing that access to knowledge and skills would be crucial in shaping the future workforce. He invested in educational platforms that provided online courses, vocational training, and mentorship to young people in underserved communities. Arjun wanted to ensure that future generations would have the skills and knowledge they needed to thrive in an increasingly digital world. As he moved into these new industries, Arjun remained committed to the values that had brought him success in the first place. He knew that no matter how big his empire became, the key to his success would always be the same: solving real problems and making a positive impact. He continued to focus on creating value, not just for himself, but for others. Arjun had come a long way from the jobless young man with no direction. He had built a multi-million-dollar empire, not just by being a great businessman, but by staying true to his values. His journey had been one of continuous growth, both as an entrepreneur and as a person. Now, he was ready to embark on the next chapter, knowing that the future was full of endless possibilities, and that his work had only just begun. But Arjun never lost sight of the lesson that had guided him from the start: the key to success was never about the money or the fame, it was about solving problems, helping others, and making the world a better place. That was the legacy he wanted to leave behind. As Arjun ventured further into the world of clean energy and education, he encountered new obstacles, yet his resilience and determination remained unshaken. The transition into these industries wasn't without its hurdles. Clean energy, in particular, proved to be an intricate sector, one filled with regulatory challenges, market volatility, and competition from large multinational corporations. Arjun knew that this was a high-risk but high-reward space, and his approach was no longer about rushing in blindly, as he had in the early days of his delivery service. This time, he was methodical, strategic, and focused on long-term sustainability. His first significant step in the clean energy market was to develop a new technology for solar energy storage. The idea came to him one evening while reflecting on his journey. He remembered how his delivery service had struggled in its early days due to poor logistics, but over time, with careful research and investment in technology, he had transformed his operations. He realized that the clean energy sector was facing similar problems: efficiency and cost-effectiveness in storing solar power. Arjun decided to develop a new kind of battery storage system that was more affordable and efficient than existing solutions. He assembled a team of engineers, researchers, and industry experts to work on the project. The challenge was daunting. Solar energy was unpredictable, and the technology to store it effectively had not yet reached the point where it could be used at a massive scale. But Arjun was undeterred. He used the same mindset that had carried him through his early challenges in the delivery business: learn, innovate, and never stop improving. For months, the team worked tirelessly, testing various prototypes, working with manufacturers, and overcoming technical challenges. The market was saturated with well-established players, and there were moments when Arjun questioned whether he could break through. But his previous experiences in business had taught him that true innovation often came when others were convinced that it wasn't possible. And slowly, after a lot of trial and error, Arjun's team came up with a breakthrough: a more efficient and cost-effective solar battery that could store more energy, was cheaper to produce, and had a longer lifespan than anything on the market. The next challenge was market entry. With his extensive experience in logistics, Arjun knew that even the best product would fail if the distribution and marketing were not aligned. He made the decision to partner with leading solar panel manufacturers to integrate his battery technology with their products. This partnership would allow his company to reach a broader audience and offer a complete, fully integrated clean energy solution. The decision was risky, as it meant giving up a degree of control over the product, but it also gave him access to larger customer bases and the ability to scale faster. As Arjun's solar energy storage solution began gaining traction, the company faced a new challenge: the evolving regulatory landscape. Governments across the globe were implementing stricter environmental policies, and navigating these regulations was no easy feat. Arjun knew that to be successful, he would have to stay ahead of the regulatory curve and adapt quickly to new rules and policies. This marked the beginning of his deep involvement in policy advocacy. Arjun's voice was no longer just about business growth, it was about influencing change on a larger scale. He began to collaborate with international environmental groups, lobbying governments to create policies that encouraged the use of renewable energy and made it easier for companies like his to scale their clean energy products. He used his success in the delivery business as a platform to advocate for global change, helping to shape the future of sustainable energy. Arjun's position as a business leader gave him a unique opportunity to bring about change on a global scale. It was a new challenge, but one he embraced wholeheartedly. As his clean energy business grew, so did his involvement in education. He realized that the future of the workforce would depend heavily on education and access to new skills, especially in emerging industries like renewable energy, technology, and artificial intelligence. Arjun began funding initiatives that offered vocational training in underserved communities. His goal was simple: to equip young people with the skills necessary to thrive in a rapidly evolving job market. He launched a series of education centers focused on providing affordable courses in renewable energy technologies, sustainable business practices, and technical skills. Arjun also collaborated with universities to create scholarships for students pursuing careers in clean energy. He understood that without the right talent, his clean energy business would have limited success. Investing in education wasn't just about giving back, it was about ensuring that the industry would have the skilled workforce it needed to grow and thrive in the future. His education initiatives soon caught the attention of other entrepreneurs, and Arjun was invited to be a keynote speaker at global education summits. There, he advocated for a new approach to learning, one that focused on practical skills, entrepreneurship, and real-world problem-solving. He believed that the traditional education system was too rigid and slow to adapt to the demands of the modern economy. His focus on vocational training and mentorship programs inspired others to take similar steps, creating a ripple effect in the global education sector. However, even as Arjun achieved success in these new ventures, he still struggled with the idea of balance. His life had always been a whirlwind of activity, working long hours, navigating complex decisions, and constantly pushing forward. Now that he was leading multiple industries, with a clean energy company, education initiatives, and his delivery business all growing rapidly, Arjun found himself questioning how to manage everything. He wanted to ensure that he wasn't losing sight of his core values, even as the scope of his ventures expanded. The demands of being a global leader were taking a toll on his personal life. He had always kept a low profile in the media, but as his influence grew, so did the scrutiny. Arjun had always prided himself on being a private person, but the reality of being a public figure was something he could no longer avoid. The pressure was intense, and he began to feel the weight of his responsibility not just to his business but to the world. It was during this time of reflection that Arjun realized something important. Success, while fulfilling, was never meant to be pursued at the expense of one's well-being. He decided to step back and take some time for himself, to travel, to reconnect with his family, and to enjoy the fruits of his hard work. It was a brief respite, but it allowed him to gain a fresh perspective. When Arjun returned, he made a conscious decision to reimagine his role in his companies. He no longer felt the need to oversee every detail of every business. Instead, he began to focus on mentorship, innovation, and long-term strategy. He trusted his team and knew that the best way to ensure the continued success of his companies was by empowering others to take ownership and lead in their own right. Arjun's journey was not just about creating wealth. It was about the impact he could make on the world, the lives he could change, and the legacy he could leave behind. He had transitioned from a jobless young man with little hope to a globally recognized entrepreneur whose businesses were at the forefront of technological innovation, sustainability, and education. But despite everything he had accomplished, Arjun understood that the true measure of success was not in the size of his empire, but in the difference he made in the lives of others. The challenges ahead were still many, but Arjun had the tools, the experience, and the vision to continue building a better world. His journey had taught him that the path to success was never straight, and that it was the ability to adapt, evolve, and learn from each obstacle that truly mattered. As Arjun's influence continued to grow, so did his ambition. He had built a multi-million-dollar empire across several industries, but he realized that true legacy wasn't about wealth alone. It was about creating a lasting impact that could endure for generations to come. He had revolutionized the delivery sector, made significant strides in clean energy, and created educational opportunities for those who needed them most, but Arjun knew there was more to do. He wasn't finished. With his success in these sectors, Arjun had established himself as a thought leader and a visionary entrepreneur. Yet, the more he accomplished, the more he realized that true fulfillment didn't come from accolades or material success, it came from solving problems that went beyond business. His desire to address large-scale global issues only grew stronger. As his businesses expanded, so did his responsibility to the world. In one of his quiet moments, Arjun thought about the future of humanity. Global challenges like climate change, poverty, and access to quality healthcare weighed heavily on his mind. These problems were much larger than anything he had faced before, but Arjun's belief that a business could create positive change led him to think about how he could use his position to make a difference on a larger scale. The first major step in this direction was Arjun's deep dive into the healthcare industry. He had always believed that access to healthcare was a fundamental human right, and over the years, he had come to realize just how broken the global healthcare system was. In many parts of the world, healthcare was either unaffordable or inaccessible, and those who needed it most were often the ones left behind. Arjun began researching healthcare solutions that could bridge the gap between technology and accessibility. He quickly discovered that telemedicine, remote medical consultations via video calls and online platforms, was one of the fastest-growing sectors in healthcare. It was a solution that could bring healthcare to people in rural and underserved areas, where access to doctors and medical facilities was limited. However, there were still many obstacles, including the lack of infrastructure and the challenge of making telemedicine affordable. Determined to solve this problem, Arjun decided to invest in a company that was working to make telemedicine more accessible. He collaborated with tech experts, doctors, and policymakers to create a platform that was easy to use, affordable, and could provide high-quality care remotely. The platform included virtual consultations, prescription delivery services, and online health monitoring, making it possible for people to receive medical attention from the comfort of their homes. Arjun's vision for healthcare went beyond just creating a telemedicine platform. He wanted to ensure that healthcare was accessible to everyone, regardless of their economic status. To make this vision a reality, Arjun focused on integrating the platform with low-cost medical devices that could be used at home, such as remote blood pressure monitors, thermometers, and glucose testing kits. He also aimed to partner with local governments and non-profit organizations to make sure that the service could reach people who couldn't afford it. The first year of the project was challenging. Many regions lacked reliable internet infrastructure, which hindered the widespread adoption of telemedicine. Additionally, convincing governments and health authorities to adopt the platform wasn't easy. But Arjun had faced opposition before, and he knew that persistence was key. He worked tirelessly, lobbying for telemedicine to be included in public healthcare programs and forging partnerships with healthcare organizations to offer the platform as an affordable solution for the masses. As the platform gained traction, Arjun saw its impact firsthand. Thousands of people in rural areas who had previously gone without medical care were now able to consult with doctors remotely. The platform also saved people valuable time and money that would have been spent traveling long distances to see a healthcare provider. This success was a turning point for Arjun. It proved that businesses could indeed make a meaningful difference in solving some of the world's most pressing problems. Arjun's foray into the healthcare sector led him to another major insight: mental health. Over the years, he had witnessed the rising rates of mental health issues, particularly in fast-paced, high-pressure environments like the ones he had worked in. He realized that mental health was often overlooked, especially in the corporate world, where the focus was primarily on productivity and results. He had personally experienced the toll that stress and burnout could take on an individual, and he wanted to ensure that mental well-being was given as much importance as physical health. He decided to create a platform dedicated to mental health support, one that would offer virtual therapy, counseling, and mindfulness resources. This initiative aimed to make mental health care more accessible and less stigmatized. He brought in psychologists, counselors, and mindfulness experts to create a holistic approach to mental well-being. The platform offered everything from virtual therapy sessions with licensed professionals to stress relief techniques, meditation exercises, and self-help courses. In an increasingly disconnected world, Arjun believed that mental health couldn't be ignored any longer. His commitment to mental health was another example of how his business acumen extended far beyond making a profit. It was about shaping a better world. Arjun's platform for mental health became an invaluable resource for people from all walks of life, especially those who had previously not sought help due to social stigma or financial constraints. Through his involvement in both healthcare and mental health, Arjun found himself at the forefront of a global movement to change how society viewed wellness. But as his influence spread across industries, Arjun also became keenly aware of the dangers of overextending himself. He had built a business empire, created groundbreaking initiatives, and made significant strides towards solving global challenges. But the pressures of his expanding portfolio weighed heavily on him. Arjun knew that in order to continue making an impact, he needed to be more than just a business leader. He needed to be a visionary, someone who could inspire change on a larger scale by empowering others. He began focusing more on mentoring young entrepreneurs, guiding them through the challenges of building businesses that could create social impact. He understood that his legacy would be more than just the companies he built, it would be in the people he helped empower to create their own change. To ensure that his impact could endure beyond his personal involvement, Arjun created an entrepreneurship incubator that focused on fostering businesses with a strong social mission. He believed that the future of business wasn't just about profitability, it was about the power to create positive change in the world. His incubator provided funding, mentorship, and resources to entrepreneurs who were committed to using business as a force for good. Through these efforts, Arjun created a ripple effect, influencing a new generation of business leaders who saw success not as an end, but as a means to create a better world. His work inspired countless individuals to pursue ventures that not only provided financial returns but also contributed to solving the world's most pressing problems. As his companies flourished, so did the companies of the young entrepreneurs he mentored, creating a network of businesses united by a common mission to improve the world. By now, Arjun had shifted his focus. His empire was vast, but it was no longer just about profit, it was about legacy. It was about leaving a world better than he found it. He had gone from a jobless young man to a multimillionaire entrepreneur, to a philanthropist and social innovator who used his success to shape a brighter future. His journey had come full circle, but the work was far from done. Arjun knew that the road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but he was ready to take them on, knowing that his true success lay not in what he had built, but in what he had inspired others to create. Arjun had achieved what many thought was impossible. He had transformed from a young man with no job and no direction into one of the most influential entrepreneurs of his generation. He had built businesses that had not only achieved financial success but had also made a tangible difference in the world. However, despite the accolades, the wealth, and the global recognition, there was one thing that still weighed heavily on his heart: his personal life. Throughout his journey, Arjun had sacrificed much, time with family, friendships, and even his own well-being. His relentless focus on building his empire had left little room for anything else. As he neared the peak of his professional success, Arjun began to question what truly mattered. Was it the companies he had built? The millions of dollars he had accumulated? Or was it the relationships he had neglected along the way? The pressure had been immense. Arjun had often been away from home for months at a time, traveling for business, meeting with investors, and pushing forward his vision for the future. His family had supported him from the beginning, but Arjun couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed them in some ways. His marriage, once strong, had begun to fray under the strain of his absence. He had missed birthdays, anniversaries, and countless small moments that he could never get back. Arjun realized that in his quest to build a legacy, he had neglected the people who had always been there for him. This realization hit him hard. It was in a quiet moment of reflection, sitting in his office overlooking the city, that Arjun asked himself one of the most difficult questions of his life: was he willing to sacrifice more of his personal happiness for the sake of his professional ambitions? It was a question he hadn't wanted to face before, but now it seemed unavoidable. He decided that it was time to make a change. Arjun knew that he could not continue down the path he had been on. He couldn't keep chasing after the next big opportunity, the next business venture, if it meant losing everything that truly mattered. He needed to find balance, to reconnect with his family, and to find peace in the midst of his success. Arjun took a step back from the day-to-day operations of his companies. He appointed trusted leaders within each of his businesses to take over the management and gave them the freedom to run things in his absence. He understood that his companies had grown to a level where they could continue to thrive without his constant involvement. This was a pivotal moment. Arjun had to trust others to carry his vision forward and allow them the space to make their own decisions. It was time to become a mentor, not just a leader. In the following months, Arjun began spending more time with his family. He went on long vacations with his wife and children, something he had not done in years. They traveled to places he had always wanted to visit but had never made the time for. He reconnected with old friends, shared meals with his parents, and began to realize that there was a richness in life beyond business. The work he had done was important, but the relationships he nurtured, the love he gave and received, were what truly brought fulfillment. During this time, Arjun also made a personal commitment to his own well-being. He had always been focused on the success of his businesses, but now he understood that he could not continue to help others if he didn't take care of himself. He hired a personal trainer, began practicing yoga, and adopted a healthier lifestyle. He made sure to dedicate time to his mental health as well. He started journaling, meditating, and reflecting on his life in ways that he had never done before. It was a holistic approach to well-being that allowed him to feel centered, both physically and mentally. The changes Arjun made in his personal life began to have a profound effect on his professional life as well. He became more present, more engaged, and more intentional in his work. He realized that his businesses didn't need him to be constantly working, they needed him to be focused and strategic. With his renewed sense of purpose, Arjun started to see his companies not just as profit-generating machines but as vehicles for positive change in the world. He was able to refocus on the broader impact of his work, using his position to mentor others, to advocate for social causes, and to continue building the legacy he had always envisioned. Arjun's leadership style also evolved. He moved away from being a micromanager, giving his teams the freedom to innovate and lead on their own. He trusted them more than ever, knowing that the businesses he had built were in capable hands. His employees and partners saw a different side of him, someone who was deeply committed to their growth and success, as much as to his own. But it wasn't just about business anymore. Arjun's work was still about creating solutions, helping others, and making the world a better place, but now it also had to include the people closest to him. Arjun became an advocate for work-life balance, sharing his personal journey with others and encouraging fellow entrepreneurs to consider the importance of family, mental health, and self-care. He made it a point to use his platform to speak out about the pressures of entrepreneurship and the need to create a sustainable, holistic approach to success. As Arjun continued to evolve, he realized that the world around him was evolving too. The global landscape was changing rapidly, and new challenges were emerging, challenges that required the collaboration of both businesses and individuals to solve. The world was grappling with issues like climate change, the future of work, and social inequality. Arjun's businesses were part of the solution, but he knew that it would take more than just one person or one company to create lasting change. This led to Arjun's next great leap, collaboration. He began working with other entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and organizations to tackle these larger, more complex issues. He believed that collective action was the key to solving the world's biggest problems, and he made it his mission to bring together people who shared his vision of creating a better, more sustainable future. He started by investing in initiatives focused on renewable energy, climate change, and social justice. Arjun became a founding member of a global coalition of entrepreneurs and activists dedicated to finding solutions to the environmental crisis. He worked alongside governments, nonprofits, and thought leaders to create sustainable business models that could drive real change. Arjun also used his position to advocate for policy reforms that would make a positive impact on society. He lobbied for stronger environmental protections, better access to education, and more equitable healthcare. Arjun knew that businesses couldn't thrive in a world that was struggling. He wanted to be part of the solution, using his influence to create a more just and sustainable world. Through his collaboration efforts, Arjun's influence reached even further. His story inspired others to follow suit, and the ripple effect of his work began to grow exponentially. What started as a small idea, one man's journey from jobless to multi-millionaire, had now become a movement, a mission to change the world for the better. Arjun's legacy was no longer just about the businesses he had built or the wealth he had accumulated. It was about the people he had mentored, the lives he had touched, and the global change he had helped catalyze. He had gone from a man with a dream to a global leader who had made that dream a reality for millions of people around the world. And in the end, Arjun realized that success wasn't measured in the millions of dollars or accolades, it was measured in the lives he had impacted and the legacy he had created. As the years passed, Arjun found himself standing at the crossroads of a new chapter in his life. His businesses were thriving, his influence was global, and his legacy as an entrepreneur and philanthropist was solidified. Yet, despite the monumental success he had achieved, Arjun began to reflect deeply on the meaning of his journey and the impact he had made. He had always been driven by the desire to succeed, but now he understood that true fulfillment lay in leaving behind something that would continue to grow and inspire long after he was gone. Arjun had come a long way from the jobless young man he had once been, struggling to find his place in the world. His rise to success had been marked by challenges, setbacks, and relentless hard work, but also by moments of clarity, transformation, and inspiration. He had built an empire in industries ranging from delivery services to clean energy and healthcare, but he knew that his journey wasn't just about business, it was about making a meaningful difference in the world. In the quiet moments, Arjun often thought back to his humble beginnings. He remembered the days when he was uncertain of his future, when the thought of success seemed so distant. The failures, the moments of doubt, the people who told him it couldn't be done, all of it had shaped him. And now, standing on the peak of his achievements, he could look back with gratitude and pride. His journey had not been easy, but every step had been worth it. Arjun understood that success was not a destination, it was a continuous journey of growth, learning, and giving. He had achieved financial prosperity, yes, but the wealth that mattered most to him was not just measured in dollars and cents, it was measured in the lives he had touched, the communities he had helped, and the future he had helped shape. As he moved forward, Arjun knew that his true legacy was about far more than the businesses he had built. It was about the ripple effect he had created, the inspiration he had sparked in others, and the positive change that had spread from the work he had started. One of the most profound lessons Arjun had learned was the importance of resilience, the ability to bounce back from failure, to learn from setbacks, and to never give up. Every successful entrepreneur knew that failure was part of the journey. What mattered was the ability to persevere, to adapt, and to use every obstacle as a stepping stone toward greater success. Arjun had faced countless challenges along the way, but he had never allowed them to define him. Instead, he had used each failure as an opportunity to grow and improve. He also realized the value of giving back. The wealth he had accumulated was not just for his own enjoyment, it was a tool to help others. He had invested in education, in clean energy, in healthcare, and in social causes, always with the goal of creating a better world. His businesses had not only generated profit, they had created jobs, provided services to those in need, and made a tangible impact on society. Arjun had always believed that businesses had a responsibility to do more than just make money, they had a duty to improve the world. But beyond his professional achievements, Arjun had come to understand that his most important legacy was the people he had mentored and inspired. He had always been a believer in the power of mentorship, and he had made it his mission to help others realize their potential. From the young entrepreneurs he had supported through his incubator to the employees he had empowered to lead their own teams, Arjun had invested in people. He understood that the true measure of success was not in the companies you built or the wealth you amassed, but in the lives you changed along the way. Arjun's journey had been a testament to the power of vision, perseverance, and giving back. He had turned his dreams into reality, overcoming obstacles that seemed insurmountable, and in doing so, he had created a legacy that would endure for generations to come. But as he looked toward the future, he knew that there was still more to be done. The challenges facing the world were still vast: climate change, inequality, access to education and healthcare, yet Arjun believed that the work of one person could make a difference. It was the responsibility of every entrepreneur, every leader, to use their influence to drive positive change. Arjun's story was not just one of personal triumph, it was a reminder that success is not measured by the accolades or the wealth you acquire. True success lies in the impact you have on others, the difference you make, and the legacy you leave behind. His journey had been about more than building businesses, it had been about building a better world. As Arjun looked out over the horizon, he felt a sense of peace. His work was far from finished, but he knew that he had given his all. He had built companies that changed industries, mentored entrepreneurs who would continue his work, and created a legacy that would inspire others for years to come. Arjun had started with nothing, and now, as he gazed at the empire he had built, he understood that the true measure of success was not in the wealth or recognition he had achieved, but in the lasting impact he had made on the world and the lives he had touched along the way. His journey had come full circle. From jobless to multimillionaire, from uncertainty to purpose, Arjun had found not just success but fulfillment. He had built a life that mattered, one that would continue to inspire others to dream big, to persevere, and to use their success to create a better world. And in that, Arjun knew he had found the ultimate success.